Good evening, Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 43. Hope you all had a great start to your week. We got to go to a race last weekend, which was exciting. Hadn't been to one in a few weeks. Thomas Meserol picked up the win on our shocks at DuQuoin. It was a great race over there, 72 midgets or so. And over in New Zealand, Brad Mosen picked up his third win in a row for the Seamount team on our shocks. So good weekend for Team CSI, and we are busy preparing for the Tulsa Shootout. So this will be our last Monday Morning Quarterback for a little bit. We're not going anywhere, but with Christmas Eve next Monday and New Year's Eve the following Monday, and we're also in Tulsa during that time, and then finishing up Shootout Chili Bowl, we're going to take 3 or 4 weeks off, kind of get reloaded up and bring you guys all sorts of cool content for 2019. So we're not going anywhere, but we're going to take a little bit of a break here, and be a great opportunity for those of you who haven't seen all the episodes to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Got a bunch of them cataloged there. I believe like 18, episode 18 to 42 is there, which would have been up to last week's episode, and then the older ones you can find on our Facebook page. So tonight we're going to bring you a tech video. Haven't done one in a little bit. I apologize ahead of time. I'm fighting a cold, and I recorded this earlier today, so I might be a bit sniffly in that as well. But we're going to teach you how to rebuild shock adjuster cables. So USAC just changed the rules to allow them again after a year off in the Sprint Car series. So if you've had some cables and cockpit adjuster knobs sitting around, this will kind of give you a quick tutorial on how to get them freshened and working good as new. Or if you've just got a lot of time on them and they're starting to get dirty and not spinning quite as good as they once were when they were new, this will show you how you can fix them. Sometimes they're too far gone, but a lot of times if you catch them early enough, you can get them working good as new. The other thing that I will caution that I see happen frequently, which causes the cockpit adjuster cable to not work properly, is guys run a cable that's too long or it's not tied up properly. So it should be zip tied to the chassis or something like that every 5 or 6 inches. So without further ado, we'll cut to that video, and then we'll come back and answer your questions about that, the Pit Logic app, your race cars, and kind of whatever else that you want to ask.
How's it going? Today we're going to show you how to rebuild your shock adjuster cables. So a lot of you have had these sitting in the shop for the season. They weren't allowed. USAC is allowing them again. And then some of you used them all year and they got gunked up at the car wash. We're going to show you how you're going to freshen up your knob and your cockpit adjuster cable. The first thing we would do is a 3/32 Allen wrench, and we're going to take the ends off the cable. Oftentimes you can just replace the housing, and that's going to get you back feeling good again. So the housing can get pinched or kinked or maybe hot by a piece of exhaust, so we'll set that aside. The big thing with the cable is to make sure it's not bent anywhere or have any kinks. You can see when I took that housing off, that's got a little bit of a burr. We'll sand that off. But you want to make sure that this thing is in pretty good shape and it's not gunked up. If it is, then it need to be replaced, and this is the most expensive part of the unit. Some people think it's just a cheap speedometer cable. Actually, it's the drive cable for a weed eater, so it's much more robust, a lot stiffer, so you don't get as much wind up when you're adjusting the shock. So this one looks pretty good. I'm just going to clean up the ends before I put the new piece of housing in. So you can do that one of two ways. You can cut it off with a cut-off wheel, either on a Dremel or a die grinder. This one I'm just going to take to the belt sander and clean up a little bit. When you go to the belt sander like that, that, you can see it kind of melts the end of the cable together so you don't have any fraying. You can buy replacement housing from us. Typically it'll come a little bit long, and I'll show you how you're going to want to size it. This one's actually just about right. So you want 3/4 of an inch to an inch or so of housing, the housing to be shorter than the cable, and that gives you enough room to get your adjuster on. When you buy the housing, it'll come with new pieces of heat shrink. The reason we put the heat shrink on there is to make a seal to try to prevent water from getting in there. You'll just get your cable end down on all the way, tighten it up. Kind of get both sides snug, and then you can get after tightening each side of it. Just want to push that down till it stops. Then you'll take your piece of heat shrink and you'll bring them up just to the edge of the cable housing. Now your cable's completely rebuilt. You can see it spins free in the housing again, and that sucker's ready to go. Second part to it is going to be cleaning the cockpit adjuster knob. So when you go to the car wash and everything gets kind of gunky and dirty, you'll tend to lose the detent in this, some dirt in there. All you need to do is take a pair of snap ring pliers, which are easier to use sometimes than others. Get the snap ring off. We have a, sometimes there'll be a shim in there, sometimes not, just depends on the spacing. So whatever shim or no shims in there, you want to make sure you get it back. So typically, this one isn't too bad, but typically this will be all gunked up with dirt and everything else. So we just clean it real good. We use this waterproof grease. Any synthetic grease will work good as well. I typically just run a lap of grease around that. Put it back in, make sure that detent didn't fall out. Put your washers back in and get that back on. And now you're good as new. This is rebuilt as well. So pretty simple. Took about 10 minutes, got the cable and the knob rebuilt and ready for the season, and no need to buy a new one. Thanks for watching.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed that little segment. Again, your shock adjusters can easily be rebuilt to get them freshened up as long as they're not too far gone. If you go to pull that cable out of the housing and the cable's fully rusted up and it's not pliable anymore and it's really stiff, it's probably too far gone. However, if you're not to that point, a lot of times a fresh piece of housing, get that cable cleaned up, and you're ready to go. So we are to the point of questions. Let's see what we've got going here. Karen enjoyed our 3D printing video. Thanks, Karen. We put that video out, I think, last Friday about how we're utilizing our 3D printer to develop new valving curves, and it's been working really well for us. We've used that tool quite a bit this summer. So anybody that's tuned in have questions on rebuilding your shock adjusters, setups, or the new PitLogic app, Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining. Steve has given us some good feedback on the PitLogic app, so glad to see he's using it. We've put a PitLogic button on the home screen of our website, and there's some frequently asked questions there that I've listed, as well as I've started to upload some of the baseline setup. So you'll see a couple codes there. But before I break for Christmas, I give you my word that there'll be a bunch more. So we're going to get a bunch more quarter midget setups up there, as well as some micro setups from some of our chassis companies that we work with there. So, Steven, current turnaround time for shocks right now, if you don't need them for the shootout, you're not going to get them for the shootout. We are right now a week and a half on repairs or new builds, and then with Christmas next week, we're really only here 3 days next week, and then the majority of us go to the shootout. So if you need them by the shootout, we can make sure it happens. If you need them by Chili Bowl, get them here soon because we're starting to fill up. But if you're racing, we'll make sure we got them. Alex, do we ever play with internal shaft clamps? So I wouldn't say a clamp, but we've ran different internal bump stops, internal springs, and different things like that to adjust basically your full extension length. And I would say we've done it with mixed results. Never had a foregone conclusion that it was absolutely better. We've had feedback that it was better, feedback there was no difference, feedback that they didn't like it as much, a little more sensitive, and we've mainly done it with the non-wing stuff. So yeah, that is something that we have fooled with, and we're probably not done fooling with, but we haven't gotten to a point that we're set on something. Mike, what's the best way to tie up the cables? I would use a good zip tie, so a zip tie with a steel tang, not a plastic tang, and you can pull it fairly tight. The housing we use is pretty hard, so typically you can pull it almost as tight as you can get it with a zip tie, and tie it again like every 5 or 6 inches or so along the frame or whatever you have to tie it to there, and that's going to be the best way to go about it. So. Steve is thanking Kevin for his help on the app. Kevin has been awesome to work with, helping all of our customers. As you can imagine, once you release it to the public, there's things that get discovered that we didn't discover during beta testing, different versions of the Android software, different tablets, different levels of subscriptions, and so we've been getting everybody fixed up absolutely as quick as possible on all that. The big release that happened last week, the newest version, the 1.64, if you're a gold or a silver level member and you haven't gotten us to upload the shocks into the library for you, make sure you request them. That'll be the way that we can know that you're waiting for those. So if you go to the shock section of the app, and when you go to add a new shock, there's a new button there that says request shocks from CSI, and if you hit that, that'll let us know that you're waiting for us to add some shocks to your library. There's a good chance we might contact you after we get that to make sure that we're uploading the correct shocks to your library. Some people have bought shocks secondhand or through a dealer, and we don't have their name and serial numbers on record, so we need to get those serial numbers in order to do that. So, anybody else that's tuned in have questions pertaining to tonight's video, race car setup, or the PitLogic app, and we will get those answered for you. As I mentioned earlier, this will be our last Monday morning quarterback for about a month. So with the holiday schedule coming up and being at the shootout and the Chili Bowl, we're going to take a little bit of a break, kind of retool, and come back with a bunch of cool new stuff after Chili Bowl. So Steven, so yes, this is a question we've got asked several times, and so it's on our website as well. Steven's asking if he has the app and he cancels his subscription maybe during the off season, will his data still be there? So yes, as long as you don't delete the app from your device, the data is stored there locally. You just can't access it unless you have an active subscription. The other way to ensure that it's there, if you are going to delete it off your device or get a new phone or tablet, is you can save it all to the cloud. So you can upload all those setups and just note what the codes are and then re-download them into your new device. So yes, there is an option there to cancel maybe during the off season and then pick up where you left off. So yep. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I'm going to go home and take some medicine and hopefully watch my Saints win this football game. We've certainly appreciated everybody's feedback. We're 43 weeks straight of doing this, so haven't taken a week off in 43 weeks. So going to take a few off here for the holidays and shootout and Chili Bowl, and then we're looking forward to jumping right back in with a bunch more tech and questions for you guys next year. So doesn't look like there's any other questions. We hope you all have a fantastic holiday. Hope you have a Merry Christmas and a good time with your family. Hopefully you got all your shopping done. I haven't yet, but I will this week. And I think we'll get to see a lot of you at the Shootout and Chili Bowl, so be sure to stop by our trailer there and say hi. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to talking to all of you again in about a month. So Merry Christmas, and take care. Thank you, guys.